to just take a moment and allow your eyes to close. And allow your awareness, your attention to just withdraw from the things of the outside world and pull deeply within. Allow the awareness to merge into your breath. As the breath flows in and flows out, just allow the awareness to merge fully into it. We're not changing the breath or working with it in any way. However it is exactly perfect. We're just allowing the awareness to merge into it, to anchor itself in the breath. And as you exhale, just allow yourself to let go. Let go of whatever it is that's occupying your mind. The thoughts that come and go. The attachment to the past or the future. Whether it's the pain of the past or whether it's the good old days. Either way, allow that attachment to the past. Just as you exhale, let it go. And allow the attachment to the future also to go. The anxiety about the future. The craving, the yearning, the fear. As you exhale, just let all of that go. And allow yourself to just be in this very moment where there is no past and there is no future. And there is just right now. If the mind wanders, just gently bring it back. And as you inhale, allow yourself to breathe in the sacred prana, that sacred life force that is blowing from atop the tops of the Himalayas, that is blowing from across the waters of Mother Ganga. That same prana that has been breathed by the sages, the saints and the rishis. Allow yourself to breathe it in. And feel it flowing through you. Letting go more and more on each exhalation. As you sink deeper and deeper into this present moment. And as you inhale, filling this present moment with that sacred life force, that sacred and holy prana. Just breathe it in. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level in Namaste. Gently rub the palms of your hands against each other. And press the palms into your closed eyes. Slowly lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together with you all. So we start, as always, with a question from our family from across the world joining us online through the internet. And then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here has. So we have 2 microphones. If you have a question, just raise your hand and come up to either of the microphones. How can we get rid of day-to-day problems? And this is asked by Naval Singh Gautam. It's like saying, how can I have roses without the thorns? How can you have a garden and no weeds? How can you have day and not night? They're part of a package deal. It's the package deal of life. We were talking sometime in just the last couple of days about the lives when God, the embodiment of the divine, whether Krishna, whether Ram, whether Jesus Christ, so any religion. But when we have the incarnations of the divine, however we may see them here on earth, the Buddha, in all of the stories of their lives, what do we have? Problems and problems and problems. There's no story that I know of in any religion in which the divine incarnates, manifests on earth, and has a life that looks like, he or she stepped out of the Brady Bunch. And there's no conflict, and there's no struggle, and everything is just really happy and sweet, and it's never like that. And it's in fact, that which they struggle from is always much, much worse than what any of us struggle from. You look at the life of Bhagawan Krishna, born in jail. In just the first days of his life, his own maternal uncle doing everything to try to kill him, actually kill him. Bhagawan Ram, this embodiment of the divine perfection, the epitome of dharma, of righteousness, of goodness, and what does he get in exchange for it? 14 years exiled to the jungle. No fault of his own. No mistake he's made. You look at the life of Jesus Christ. What do we get right? So there's a pattern here. Struggle, and much worse struggle than day-to-day problems. And for me, the reason that we have stories like this, because of course, when you realize that the divine is incarnating on earth, well, clearly, they've got the power to incarnate however they want. It's not that God is stuck in some way. God is God. And so it makes one wonder, or at least it makes the scientist in me wonder, if God is going to come onto earth, why would God always choose difficulty after difficulty after difficulty, and really bad stuff? And I think the reason is so that no matter what we go through, it's still not as bad as what God has gone through in the scriptures. that we can never say, oh, this scriptural teaching is only meant for people whose lives are perfect. Like, this doesn't apply to me because I am struggling. The teachings are always given in the very context of intense struggle. So it seems to me that the only possible takeaway from that is that that's kind of a non-negotiable in life. Because a lot of us, our complaints are things like, I'm a good person. I don't lie, I don't steal, I don't cheat, I meditate most days, I pray most days. Why all these problems? And I think that we're given these scriptural stories so that we don't ask those questions. Or so that when we do, someone can point out to us and say, hey, you think you're a good person? Well, look what happened when God came on earth. Even worse problems than yours. So being a good person, being spiritual, is not an inoculation against problems in life. Neither the run-of-the-mill, day-to-day kind, nor even the have your entire kingdom stolen from you kind, nor the have your wife kidnapped by the demon kind. These problems are part of life. So how do you get away from them? You don't. But what you do, and it's one of my very favorite ways of understanding, favorite metaphors, is if you say, this cup, this glass is me. Okay, let's just say this is me, and happens to be full of water. And let's just say this is my life. It's my self-identity. Now, rocks fall in the glass. And when rocks fall in the glass, the rocks are the stuff of life. Troubles, trials, tribulations, annoyances, obnoxious people, etc., etc., etc. All of the stuff of life. These rocks fall in the glass. And what happens? Imagine what would happen if rocks fell in this glass right now of water. Yeah, water is going to spill all over. What most of us do is we spend our life trying to figure out how to keep these rocks away. And we're constantly fighting against the rocks. And it's like that whack-a-mole game that they used to have when I was a kid in the arcades. Where, raise your hand if you've actually ever seen a whack-a-mole game. So way too few of you. Okay, so it was a game in the arcades with video games, but it wasn't a video game. You'd put in a quarter, and there were maybe 9 or 12 or 15 little holes. And you had a hammer that was covered with fur. And out of one of the holes, a little mole's head, like a little beaver, little animal, their head would come up. And in one of the most beautiful ways that Western culture teaches us to be compassionate, loving beings, the game is to whack it on the head and get it to go back down in the hole. You look back on this stuff of childhood and you think, oh my God, how were we indoctrinated? But anyway, so you would whack the head of the mole into the hole. And then it would come up out of a different hole. And you'd whack it there. And the more you successfully whacked, the faster they would come up from all of the holes. And so you'd literally end up going, it was like this. Until eventually, as is the case with all of the arcade games, they're faster than you are, and you lose. And then you put in another quarter and you play again. But point being, no matter how many you could whack down, more came up and they came up faster. So it's a metaphor, it's an analogy for the futile and fruitless ways that we try to solve problems in our life. I'm going to just whack this one down. Well, wherever you whack it down, it's going to come up faster and more someplace else. So we try to get rid of these rocks in our life that are the problems. But instead, if instead of being a glass of water, if I were a bathtub and the same rocks fell on me, well, what would happen then? What would happen then? Anyone? Yeah, the water would come out, but not as much as come out of the glass. A little bit. Maybe it wouldn't even come out over the sides. It would rise up a little bit of ripples. What if I was the ocean? If I were the ocean, then what would happen? Nothing. Tiny little ripple, imperceptible, momentary, and gone. And the teaching to the problems of life is exactly that. Become the ocean. Stop trying to play whack-a-mole with the problems of your life, with the rocks that are coming down, and change the identification from glass to ocean. Rocks will still be there, problems will still be there, but you will be the ocean. And so the ripple is almost imperceptible. Great, thank you to Naval Singhotam. Any questions here? Yeah, just, there's a mic.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Again, a lot of gratitude for attending the satsang every day. And every time I go back home, I feel something inside me heals more and more.
Wonderful.
And the question I'm about to ask is a question, and also it will turn out a request later on.
Okay.
Okay, so from last 3 years since I'm here, when I'm coming from on the side of Tapovan, if you know, so I'm walking down there till here, and every day I see people just putting stick to the cows, like trying to shoo them away. And right now, currently, like from last 1 month, I've been seeing this a lot. Like they've been hitting the cows, bulls, and it is going massive.
Awful.
Yes.
Awful. Yes.
Yes, awful. And I feel sometimes very helpless. I try to tell them not to do, but I cannot be there whole time.
Of course.
And even in the Tapovan area, there are so many cows, and same is happening there as well. And it turned out as a concern also, and also like I feel like being called to do something, but I don't know what to do.
Okay.
And
yeah. So this is absolutely a problem. It's a problem that we have worked to raise awareness about for many, many, many years. Whether it's cows, whether it's dogs, whether it's children in school. Whether it's wives at home, children at home, and so many other places. There's short-term Band-Aid solutions, which are worth doing. Worth doing. Every cow or child or dog you prevent from being harmed is one less being harmed. So even if it's a Band-Aid solution, it's worth it. And the Band-Aid solutions are everything ranging from literally folding your hands to the person you see doing it and reminding them that we say Go Mata Ki Jai, that we actually pray to the cow, and just reminding them of that chant sometimes is enough to kind of make people remember. One of the things that we've done is built goshalas, cow homes, where typically cow homes are those that people keep with milk-giving cows. But we've built cow homes where they're more like cow daycare centers, where whoever's cow it is, because see, most of the cows that you see on the street, almost all of them, they're not actually stray cows. They're actually people's cows who they milk in the morning and then they let wander in the daytime and then they bring them back in the evening. And so we actually built cow daycare centers where the cows could go. Social change is not easy. Not easy. I remember in the very beginning, you'd think they're a cow out of their, to wander in the street. You're giving it a safe place to go for the day. You're giving it food. You're giving it veterinary care. And at the end of the day, they want the cow. The cow goes back home. You'd think they'd be happy. The guy we had in charge of the vehicle that actually picked up the cows to take them to the goshala got himself beaten to a pulp by like 200 village women who were furious that he had the audacity to be doing anything with their cows. This was many, many years ago. Social change is slow. It's very slow. It's especially slow when you're dealing with... It's okay. Maybe it's a perfect reminder. Maybe everyone can just take a moment, make sure your phones are on silent. It's especially slow when you're dealing with people who are, for the most part, uneducated. Because what education does, I have seen, it's not about filling our brains with facts. In many cases, those facts end up not to be quite so relevant to our lives. They may end up not even to be so true to what we end up believing. But what education does is it actually works the brain like a muscle and teaches it how to learn, how to change, how to be open to new ideas, how to think, which is why people who are not educated, it's not about them not having access to facts and figures and information. It's about not having access to a pathway of openness to new information, to new ways of thinking, that most of us who have been through educational systems have kind of a muscle for. Nonetheless, you keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. You fold your hands at every person that you can convince. You do things like we've been doing. You provide a safe place for the cows to go. You do education programs. You put up signs. You make public service announcements. You do all of these things. But really, really where the change happens. And again, this is true whether it's cows, whether it's dogs, whether it's children, whether it's women. The change happens in education. Education in homes, if possible, and education in schools, and education in culture. A new way of thinking. I cannot tell you how much we have struggled in the schools that we run to convince teachers not to hit children in school. Their philosophy is, I was hit, I turned out okay, what's the problem? How else do you discipline them? They're not bad people. They're very well-intentioned, beautiful people who are offering their skills and their lives in seva to teach in the free charitable schools we run. They're not looking for an opportunity to beat up on kids. It's all they know. It's how the culture worked. It's how the society worked when they were in school. So what we need is the external Band-Aid solution for every individual one you can help. And then we work on an educational level. And this is value education, ethics education, education of sanskaras. It starts in the home. It continues in school. It continues in culture, on social media. But this is all of our collective work to raise a voice against it. Absolutely. Thank you. Other questions? Yes.
Hello.
Yes, hello. You're on.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So, for the first time in my life, I have two anxiety crises on last 2 nights. While I was sleeping, I woke up in the morning about 3 o'clock, and it was often. And I'm really scared to go to the bed tonight. Really afraid that it happens again.
When you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, what is that experience that you have?
Really, really afraid that something is going to happen. I don't know why, just
Great.
fear.
Wonderful. Wonderful. No, really, this is ego fear. You're in a place of transformation. You're in a place of awakening. You're in a place of access to higher truths. It is unsurprising that the ego, the old ways of doing things, the old patterns, should get very worried and should wake you up in the middle of the night. Ego death feels in the mind like actual death. We fear death of the ego the way that we fear death of the body. It's why public speaking is the #1 fear in the world. I mean, really, like when you look at the number of people who are killed by guns, the number of people who are killed by toxins in their air, in their water. If you say to people, what's your greatest fear? People don't say air pollution. They should. They don't say toxins in my food, non-organic fruit is my greatest fear. The fear that you get from people, public speaking, single greatest fear. Why? Because that ego death, and it's why people say literally, I will die of embarrassment, right? Oh my God, I was so embarrassed, I almost died. Nobody ever dies of embarrassment. You stand up on stage, you go completely blank, the audience throws tomatoes at you, boos you off the stage, like your worst case scenario. But you still don't actually die. But that ego death is so wrapped up in our minds, we're so identified as the ego. But that death of the ego feels like a death of the self, which is why as we embark on a spiritual path, so many people have this type of fear. It can happen in the middle of the night. It can happen in the middle of your meditation. It's very common. I'm meditating, I'm going deeper and deeper, and then there is such a panic that I'm literally going to die, and people come out. For our survival, we hold on to the way we understand the universe. We hold on to the way we understand ourselves. The idea that everything I think about myself might not be true. The idea that everything I think about the universe might not be true. It's terrifying and exhilarating. But it's exhilarating to the higher self, it's terrifying to the ego. So 3 o'clock is actually a very auspicious time. Brahma Muhurt, which is the time of the divine, is 4 a.m. But a lot of really committed, deep, intense spiritual seekers get up even before that. I know people who get up at 2, 2:30, 3 to meditate. So when you wake up at 3 o'clock panicked, say to the universe, thank you so much for waking me up at this auspicious hour. Even if it's through my superly fast beating heart, whatever it took to get me out of slumber, thank you so much. And meditate. And if you end up awake for an hour or two meditating, and then you go back to sleep for another hour or two at 5 or 6 or whatever it is, it's okay. Presumably you're not here punching a time clock in an office somewhere, so, use that time. You're awake. The universe has pulled you out of sleep. Meditate. Start going to sleep earlier so that you're not tired later on. If you know, I'm going to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, go to sleep early. And as soon as you're awake, get into that meditation. And if the fear is still there, it's okay, just notice it. There's wind outside. I notice it and I'm meditating. There's cool air blowing by me. I notice it. And I'm still meditating. My heart is beating 1,000,000 miles an hour in fear. I notice it. And I'm still meditating. You just notice it. Just notice it, like you notice the wind, like you notice an itch on your knee, like you notice the person in the apartment next door brewing coffee and the smell comes into your room. All of the things that you notice when you're meditating, right? Somebody's baking blueberry muffins, somebody's making coffee, somebody's hammering, somebody's snoring, whatever it may be. You just notice it. My heart's beating 1,000,000 miles an hour. There is fear in the mind. Okay. Just notice it. Nothing bad's going to happen. Good. Beautiful. Other questions? Yes.
So I'm trying to be more generous in my life, and I feel like I can't see the path to be more generous, because sometimes I don't understand if a good action is more for my ego, and also sometimes I don't even know how to identify a good action.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. You've touched upon something really deep, because a lot of us get onto a spiritual path and we know that selflessness, generosity is a virtue. So we start to be more selfless and generous. And then the mind goes, I'm so much more generous than that other guy. I was so generous today. Did you notice how generous I was? And then the ego comes in. And then it doesn't feel generous anymore, because then you're doing it for the ego. And at the end of the day, before you go to sleep, you say, it was such a good day. I was so good today. I gave away so much today, my time, my resources. And then you start to wonder, am I giving it for them, or am I giving it so I have something to feel good about at the end of the day? And the answer actually on the deepest level is neither. Both of them are great byproducts. There's nothing wrong with feeling good, because a lot of us also on the pendulum swing go in that direction. Doing good work makes me happy. Therefore, I shouldn't do good work because, see, I'm actually just doing it to become happy. Now, the fact that you feel happy doing something good is a natural byproduct. It's a good byproduct. It's a positive byproduct. It should not deter you from doing the good act just because you feel good. But on the deepest level, the reason we're generous is not so that we'll feel good, and also not so that the other person will feel good, but actually because we recognize on the deepest level that nothing is ours anyway, and that everything is just the divine's, and that we are just a channel. There's a beautiful line in the Upanishads that I quote a lot, and I usually talk about the first part of the line, but today I'm going to emphasize the second part. And the teaching says, Isha vasyamidam sarvam, yat kincha jagatyam jagat, tena tyaktena bunjita, magrada kasyasvitanam. And the first part, which is usually what I speak about, says everything in the universe is pervaded by the divine. Everything is divine. There is nothing that is not divine. We've been created not just by the Creator, but of the Creator. But the second line says, therefore, be very careful. Do not think that anything belongs to you. Nothing is yours. Everything is God's. The possessive, like it belongs to God, not to you. And everything is God. So whatever it is you are offering is not actually something that was yours to begin with. You are a channel, an embodiment, a reflection, a manifestation of the divine here on earth. All of that which you have, all of that which you are, is just the flow of the divine through you. It's like electricity. Well, it flows through these lights and it gives us light. It flows through the microphone, it gives us sound. It flows through the camera, it brings this into the homes of people around the world. Flows through a blender, gives us a smoothie. Flows through our computer, gives us work. But it's all just electricity. And without electricity, none of this could work. Because that's a light, when electricity flows through it, we get light. Because that's a microphone, electricity flows through it, we get sound. But the electricity is the same. It's one power flowing through different forms, therefore manifesting in different ways. But without electricity, is it even a microphone? I mean, if it can't amplify sound, can you actually call it a microphone? If it can't give us light, is it even a light? Right? So in the same way, all of that you can do, that which you are generously giving to the world, is only there because of that power of God that is flowing through you as you. And so you recognize that. You realize that. And the way to make that generosity a spiritual practice is to just bring gratitude in. Oh God, thank you. Thank you for flowing through me as that grace, as that power, as that presence that gives me that which I am giving to others, that reflects off me onto others. And then you recognize that you're just an instrument. And it's beautiful to be an instrument. The moon is an instrument, right? I mean, it has no light of its own. It's just a piece of rock. But it reflects the light of the sun onto us, bringing us light. The moon doesn't need to develop a complex about the fact that, oh my God, I don't actually have any light of my own. It's all just the sun. That's all right. She's doing beautifully. She's figured out how to be a perfect reflector of that sun's light. So there's no need to develop a complex around it. We just recognize the truth. Here we are as instruments of that divine. But more than the moon, we're not just lifeless pieces of rock. We actually are an embodiment of that divine that doesn't just reflect off us, but flows through us and as us. So you offer yourself to the divine. And as the divine uses you to touch and share with others, as they say thank you to you, you say thank you to God. Because you're aware that that's where it all comes from. Beautiful. Yeah, we'll take this as the last question for tonight.
Namaste, Sadhviji.
Namaste.
So, I have a very general question. And I came here as a sevak. And I retired a couple of years ago. And so I've been coming to India to help my mom, 87. So I'm here as a sevak. But my question and my dilemma is, did I do the right thing to come here as a sevak, when I should be at home helping my mom? And my mom would say, no, you go, this is an opportunity. So having retired a couple of years ago, I have always wanted or a calling to do my karma yoga in US, going to Shivananda ashram, but then got discouraged by my family. What are you going to do? Why are you going to stay in a tent and stay there? And why do you want to put yourself in a misery? But this time, somehow with nature and blessings, my mom was the one who said, no, you should go.
Beautiful.
And so she was very supportive. But I keep thinking, well, if my karma yoga is towards my mom or I'm here, I'm finding more peace, both. But if I didn't come here, I wouldn't get an experience. And how do I calm myself up?
Wonderful. So I assume that before coming, you made all of the logistic and pragmatic arrangements for your mom to be taken care of, that she's not starving to death while you're away, or, sitting in a diaper that nobody's there to change, or left to fend for herself, which she can't do. I'm sure, without even knowing the details of your situation, that you've made absolutely sure that your mom is properly taken care of. It then becomes a really interesting question to ask yourself. What is my psychological complex that if I'm not the one there doing it, somehow I feel like I am bad daughter. And this is something that many of us go through. Welcome to mother-daughter relationships. And mother-sons and father-sons and father-daughters, of course, but I think that there's a particularly unique power and pathology in the mother-daughter responsibility guilt complex situation. Now, if you know mom is being perfectly taken care of, there's absolutely no logical reason why you would feel badly, except that internal unresolved stuff, which is great. Because only when it's up can you heal it, look at it, understand it. How long have you been worried about being a bad daughter? How long have you felt compelled to be the one to not do what your inner calling was to do because you needed to be the good daughter instead? And these are pathways into insight. When we understand the psyche, then we can work with it. And the more we're able to work with and heal the psyche, the easier it is to drop into meditation. Meditation is not that which we should do in this bypass of the psyche. That's the spiritual bypass that we talk about. As in, like, I've got these issues, but I'm not going to look at them or deal with them. I'm just going to sing kirtan or chant my mantra or whatever, both of which are beautiful, divine, amazing things to do, except when you're doing them to run away from stuff that actually needs to be looked at and dealt with. They're able to bring us closer and closer and closer to God when we're running to God, not when we're running away from feeling. And so while you're here, it's beautiful. Allow yourself to look into that, to become really interested in that, really curious. Like, why do I feel guilty? What is left undone? What could mom need that she's not getting that only I can give her? And most of the time when we're really honest, the answer is nothing. Not that she doesn't love you and that you're special, but on the pragmatic, logistic level of what she needs for a couple of weeks, nothing. And then we come face to face with that aspect within ourselves. Bad daughter, bad daughter. And a lot of us have it. I remember 2018, just exactly this time, back in 2018, we used to run the yoga festival the 1st to the 8th of March. March 1st morning, I wake up and there's all these missed calls from my dad, which I hadn't noticed because I had been awake really late the night before in yoga festival preparation and stuff, and so had fallen asleep and had slept through every call that had come on my phone. I wake up, I see his calls, I call him. Turns out my mom had had a stroke the night before. Severe stroke, she was in the hospital, they were going to do brain surgery. It was the first of her 2 strokes. And she was insisting that I should be there when she go in for the operation. The operation was scheduled to take place exactly 24 hours later. I looked at what I had the travel agent send me in terms of every single possible flight combination that I could get from Rishikesh to Delhi, or if I drove to Delhi, what flight I could get that would get me in LA in time to get to Cedar Sinai in time for Mom's operation. Nothing. Not one flight. Even if I walked out of the ashram in that moment, I could not be there in time for the operation. So we all agreed, me, Mom, Dad, that therefore it was no point in me rushing in. Mom would have the operation, we would pray for her here. And after the operation, we'd have a conversation about when it made sense for me to then come in. So March 2nd that year was Holi. And we always have really beautiful Holi celebrations, and Shivamani Ji was with us, and we were dancing and singing and having this just ecstatic celebration of song and dance and flowers, and it was ecstasy. And I'm dancing and singing, and suddenly I've got this internal panic. And I think, that's so interesting. Like, I don't have those experiences usually. This is not my internal experience. I don't just have moments of panic that arise out of nowhere. And then I realized, oh, my mom's in the middle of brain surgery. Of course I'm worried. But then I made myself go deeper. Because I realized on a very deep, honest level, while I would be very sad if Mom passed away or something happened, it didn't evoke that panic in me. Love her dearly, would do everything I could to keep her alive and healthy as long as I can, but that I don't have that internal, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God panic. And so I'm going within and I'm thinking, what is it? And I realized finally, the panic was, bad daughter, bad daughter, bad daughter, how dare you sing and dance in ecstasy while Mom's getting brain surgery. And it was so interesting because it was like, it had been, 25, 30 years since I had seen that bad daughter aspect of internal psyche pathology work. And I thought, wow, God, I thought we were done decades ago. And then you realize there's another layer you get to peel back, to look at, to work with, to heal from. And how beautiful. So how beautiful that this is coming up for you. Allow yourself to sit with it. Why do you feel like that? Mom is being perfectly taken care of. There's nothing else you could do. Why can't you let yourself feel like a good daughter? Let that be your internal work this week. The work is seva. And as you're doing your seva, it's cleaning and purifying your mind, your thoughts. And let it really bring you into touch with that part of you that knows, no matter how you've been indoctrinated, that you are a divine being. A divine being, not just a good daughter. You are a divine being. You are an embodiment of the divine perfection. You are not lacking in some way. You're not up to the mark in some way. Allow that to be the fruit of your seva this week. Yeah, beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. We will be having satsang tomorrow evening. It will be our last satsang before the International Yoga Festival. We will not be having satsang from the 8th through the 14th because of the festival and because each evening after the arati we'll be having beautiful music programs on the Ghat. So if you're registered for the festival or not, either way, you are more than welcome and invited to join us for the music and dance and song and all of that on the Ghat after the Aarti. We will gather again. So we will have satsang tomorrow. We'll see you all tomorrow. And then we'll gather again on the 15th. So I look so forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. And so much love to you all.